Hi there, Kamilah Rose from the Bliss Institute, and I'm coming on very quickly tonight because I had a long day at work, but I really wanted to make sure that I followed up on what we are supposed to talk about, which is kind of the role of houses in astrology. And so I talked about yesterday the planets and the different signs, and then I talked about how kind of like the house is like the flavor. It's like you can make something, and if you just add different spices, it'll taste completely different. This is kind of how houses work. So you can have someone who has a Saturn in Sagittarius, and if mine is in the 8th house and someone else's is in the 9th house, how this plays out in our lives will look different. So for instance, there are 12 houses. They correspond with the 12 astrological signs, and then there of course are planets that are assigned to each astrology sign. And so with that, you have the opportunity for you to have an interaction with every house. You might not have a planet or in every house, but every house will have a sign that is on its axis or where it begins. So that sign, that astrological sign will still have an impact on that area that is covered by that house. And so I'm gonna go pull them up because I don't think I have my list in front of me of what the 12 houses are. But they do sort of correspond with the 12 astrological signs. They do kind of go along with that. And then like the first house is about the self, appearances, beginning, the body, first impressions, attitude, identity, approach to life. And this is also the house that keeps or holds Aries. And so these two things, Aries, we're thinking about the self, we're thinking about being independent. That is Aries qualities. Well, these are similar, not the same, but similar to what are the aspects of the house. The second house is about money, work, income, daily practices, values, things like that. The cats are going crazy again. And that one, second house, is Taurus. So that is going to be about about money. It's about beauty. It's about value. It's about the things that we place value upon. So items, material items, things of that nature. Third house is the mind, thinking, communication, siblings, social activity, and interest. That's ruled by Gemini. And Gemini is all about our social interest, is about interaction, communication. It's ruled by Mercury. It's all about how we talk and think about things and how we kind of begin to create that community as we go from one, the I, to us and then other, or us seeing ourselves, and then 3, us and a third. So kind of like building that framework of like mother, father, child, or something of that nature, like a family, a community. 4, we really get into that, ruled by Cancer, or associated with Cancer, is the home, it's the roots, it's the family, self-care, emotions, foundation, mother, children, and those things. Cancer is the sign of the home. It's the sign of the family. It's the sign that is all about setting up roots and having a stable foundation, and of being able to come together. You get those 4 walls, the 4 walls of the home and of stability, those tie together. The 5th house, romance, love, affairs, play. So this is the one I always think of. It's more of the lust, more of the relationship side, as opposed to the family side, or what we'll see is later on in the 8th house is sex and intimacy, or 7, which is relationships. This is more of the fun. It's a lighter energy in the 5th house. And then that is the Leo. So Leo is all about being, having courage, pride, standing in the spotlight, leadership, initiative, coming together, being able to stand forward and take that lead, but they do so in a way that is very dramatic. It's very creative. And so these kind of tie together. The sixth house is about health, fitness, body systems, organizations. What better sign than to go with the Virgo, which is an earth sign. And it's all about that kind of analytical, very astute, very aware of what is happening. Seventh house is marriage, relationships, business, contracts. It's really contracts. Although relationships are always brought into seventh house, it's really contractual relationships. And so marriage goes into that because marriage is based on a contract, but it's business. It's anything where you make an agreement between you and another. So it is really that mirror between the I of the first house and the we of the seventh house. And we're kind of seeing those build together in the balance that comes from Libra and the scales, and how important that is to really being able to bring those together. The eighth house is about sex, inheritance. It is about history, taxes, loans. So it's really other people's money is my favorite way that I've heard other people talk about it, or the getting assistance from others, not just from yourself. Like the second house is that inner value, that inner or material things that we want, our needs, those types of things. Well, this is when you take it on that larger scale, and now you're looking at, as a community, as a group, as a family, our inheritances. So, but more so, to add to that, it is not just money or material things. It's also the values that we place upon these, upon ourselves and upon each other. It's about our talents and our skills. Look at the cat, y'all. I'm telling y'all, he is out of control. Oh, okay, he's fine. Don't worry about him. But it's also about, let me see if I can get him to come sit up here and be normal. Okay, come sit down, kitty. But it's also about larger ways that what do we value in society? Do we value material things? Do we value money? Do we value the role of each other and what we do and how that plays out to be worth? So really getting into that discussion. The second house is more self-worth. The eighth house is more value on societal level, on a larger macro level. The ninth house is going to be about travel and wisdom, education, law, religion. So it's those institutional things, ethics, things such as that. That is Sagittarians, who are great scholars. And then we have the career, long-term structure, goals, masculinity, all of those wonderful things in the 10th house. And that's really where we get the MC, and that is where you find a lot of things related to your career. So if you're interested in knowing, like, okay, what should I be doing? Where should I be going in life? A great thing to look at is to look at what's in your 10th house, what's on your MC, what signs there, are there any planets in your 10th house? These will relate to you how the sign that's on your MC will tell you about where you'll have talents and gifts work-wise. And then any planets that are in the 10th house and the sign that is on the 10th house, which should be the same as your MC, will kind of lay out a little bit of how this is playing out, how you interact with these things, where you're where this might play out for you. So taking a look to kind of see what that looks like might help you out if you need some direction with that. Then we have the 11th house, which are groups, friends, social awareness, humanitarianism, technology, hopes, and wishes of the future. So that's that Aquarian energy. That is that very large scale, like I said, being able to see further than what's just in front of us, being able to have a vision for the future and to be creative and to understand the purpose of technology and how this builds towards us. So Uranus is also associated with this. So when we have Uranus, which is something that is a revolution, it is a turning point. It is taking something and flipping it on its head and seeing it from a different angle on how to be creative, how to create change in that area, and you put that into Taurus, which is what we have going on right now, then you're seeing this revolution go on in how we understand and value ourselves, how we use our talents to make money, how we value and find our own self-worth, and how that plays out in the world around us. And then it varies as they move through the houses depending on where you are and what's going on and all of these other things. And then lastly, we have the 12th house, endings, closure. It is the subconscious, the afterlife, mysticism, spirituality, and that is Pisces. And that is the 12th sign. And so all of these things kind of play together, and you'll see that like this is just like the spice of astrology. It lets you know how things will be flavored, where this might be playing out. And if we take a more like dramatological framework, then this is where the stage is. Like this is where the drama will play out in your life concerning marriage, concerning love, concerning Venus, where your Venus sign is, love will play out on a certain stage. The drama will play out on a certain stage. So whatever house your Venus is where that drama will play out, is where the stage will be set. And then the characters are kind of dependent on the sign and the planet and all these other factors and how they interact. So going back to what we talked to yesterday about Saturn and Pluto, finding out where those are in your charts, finding out the planets that are, where those planets are, what sign they're in, and then seeing what house they're in, because then you will see that the drama, the story, the narrative of Saturn and Pluto and all of your other planets are actually playing out in certain areas that are wanting to, in Pluto, to show you kind of where your shadow is and what you need to be working on. In Saturn are showing you kind of where maybe you need to be a little creative, where there is a need for change and rebirth and not revolution per se, but where you have all of this structure, a need for structure, a desire for structure, but perhaps you're really wanting to move out of that. You're wanting to go through that death rebirth process. And then Saturn kind of plays that father time. It's all about the structure. It's all about the organization. It's all about the systems. And then we have Pluto that's all about the life and death, so like where do you need to let go? So checking those out really helps you to kind of see how different things are playing out, and also to be able to explore the patterns in your life, because we really do live in such a cyclical world, and that is because we are Saturnian. This is a Saturnian world. It is a very third dimensional aspect, because that is the time. That is time. So when you have that active aspect of time here in this dimension, then you are subject to the rulings and of the kind of energy of Saturn. And so being able to navigate that is important, and to know how that impacts you, to know how that rules in your life, but also then to be able to know kind of how to finesse it, how to get around it, how to work with it in its best way by finding the opposite sign. So the opposite sign is that's across in the opposite house, because then this is saying a way for you to kind of find that wormhole to move through time, to make things easier. It's a Tesseract, we'll call it that. That opposite sign can act as your means for a Tesseract, to be able to jump through time in order to be able to work best with the energy that is happening with you in Saturn. And then when we go to Pluto, Pluto is beyond all of that. It is the subconscious. It is the highest realms. It is that which is above us and below us, outside of us and within us. And it is interdimensional. And so it is really taking that long-term look at the things that we've carried over in our physical, in our spiritual, in our souls. Our soul journeys that we've made are encompassed in some of this energy in Pluto. And so if you're really wanting to see kind of one thing where areas that you might need to work on releasing, um, and areas where you might need to look at starting anew. This is a good space and how that plays out in that 12th house or with that Pluto. And then lastly, I'll say that the biggest thing is to be kind to yourself. And if you are really experiencing some hardships, taking a look at your Chiron, Chiron, it is the wounded healer. It was the trainer for Hercules, and he was it Hercules? I could be wrong there. Was a trainer for someone, and he ended up getting injured in his foot or in his ankle, and it made it so that he was unable to function at his best. And so it's kind of like this wound that we're constantly kind of making up for, and we're trying to go back and to heal ourselves for, and that is um, a karmic sign and karmic planet. And then you'll see also with your North Node and your South Node, these are mathematical points related to the moon. And so your North Node is kind of, think North is like where you're going, South Node is where you've been. So your North Node will signify kind of what you're here to work on and to learn. It will have a house and a sign, and your South Node will let you know what you've already kind of done, what you're looking to heal now. They are opposite of each other on the birth chart. So the South Node also is a key into kind of the tools and the gifts that you already have that you do not need any further, that you do not need to develop now. You need to develop the opposite of that. And so there's some karmic energies and information that's available through that. And of course, there's always just more gold to find in all of these different aspects and how they play together and how they work out and those things. So I hope that you are able to find out more about your relationships to different areas of your birth chart, and to take a look at your houses and see how that flavors what you're seeing now in your signs, and seeing if which houses do you not have any planets in. Those might be those that I see them as kind of neutral, ones that you do have planets in, or might feel a little bit more active for you. It might be why you've always been very interested in education, or why you're very why you speak very well, or you're great at communication. It might be why you're very mystical and you have no problems ending things, and you just feel very like connected to the spiritual realm. These things play out in different houses with these planets, and when they interact, it creates a very vivid story. So I would say, I'm trying to think of which ones I know for sure. I have Chiron, the wounded healer, in Gemini in the 4th house. So I have karmic wounds, things that need to be healed surrounding Gemini, the planet of communication and of childlike and of the twins. So being able to see from all the different areas and the directions in the 4th house. So it's happening around my home. So being able to speak about my within the home, being able to express myself to my mother, being able to be honest and truthful about where I am and what my life is like and how I want to build a life, and being able to set boundaries there and to maintain those boundaries and to communicate well and to not be afraid to have hard discussions, because I have a thing about not wanting to hurt anyone's feeling and keep the peace. It's part of my Libra stuff and my Pisces stuff, but it doesn't help me in being able to actually it maintains the peace, but at what cost? At my cost, at the cost of what I am feeling and what I am experiencing. So being able to communicate how I feel and what I'm experiencing and the type of reality that I would like to have in these 4 walls of what we see as the home, as family, and embracing that and having fun with it and keeping it light and keeping it moving, are areas that need healing for me and not sacrificing my own comfortable nature and my own feelings towards the reality and what I'm experiencing in order to accommodate others, and then speaking that truth and not being afraid that I will lose my home or that I will lose my connection to family. That is Chiron in Gemini in the 4th house. So, like I said, they tie together and they play out in many different ways, and they create different aspects. We won't even get into aspects, but they create different aspects between the other planets and the other signs. And so it's just it's a vivid story. Look at it as a very vivid story. And what is your tale? What is your tale? And then also in knowing that we do not have to, just because it's there in these birth charts does not mean that it is inevitable. It's just it's just the first draft. It's like a first draft, and we have come in to do all of the editing and to actually create the final path that will be taken. And you have full control over where that goes. But it's the awareness of what's coming up and being able to prepare for that. On a final note, I would like to say, when I tell y'all that Cancer and that Capricorn energy is button heads, these politics are like the prime example of that tension and how it is playing out. It is wild to watch, but I'm like, it's that tension and they are pulling at each other. And I would be really interested to see what's going on with like folks in the younger ages, children, teens, and see really kind of how they're viewing things, because it really is that Piscean, seeing what the pastors have to say, what the shamans have to say, people who are very mystical, not per se religious, but very mystical, very in touch with the ether, and who carry that Piscean energy. I would love to know kind of what their take is and what's going on in that realm specifically, because I think it will reflect some of that interplay that's going on right now between Pisces, Cancer, and Capricorn, and how it is an example of how to not get pulled so far and so deeply into this kind of tug of war that's going on right now between the divine feminine and the divine masculine, and how both can, through compromise and through understanding really where we need to be, like the long term, the bigger picture. That is Pisces to a T, is understanding that bigger, sorry, I ducked down, but understanding that bigger picture. That is Pisces, because they are interdimensional. So they're not just seeing that Saturn timeline that's straight ahead. They're not just seeing that Cancer home life who's on the shore and carries their home with them. They are seeing like way up above, out in space, looking down and being able to see the beginning and the end and the middle and all the different possibilities that are available to us. And I just hope that we are able to take that step back. It's such a big step back that we all have to take, that we can take that step back and really see things at that scale and at that level, and to say that some things are so petty and then some things are so important, and that they all deserve some time and energy to be able to function and to give things the real healing that is needed. And that we all play a role in that. So we'll see how this turns out. I do think, though, that there's going to be a scandal coming up. Notoriously, I've tracked it only because it's around my birthday, but notoriously around that week of 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, there have been issues and topics that have come to the forefront of the media about justice and about relationships and about balance and about balancing the scale. So I'm interested to see kind of how that's going to play out this year. I think it's going to be honestly a mess. I think this whole second half of the year is going to be a mess, and that's pulling into that 2020 judgment energy. I don't like to cuss, but like, get your ish together. That's what I'm going to say. I'm not going to cuss. Get your ish together. If there is an area that you are having issues with, whether it is financial, whether it is time management, whether it is you can't get up in the mornings, you want to go exercise, there's something that you would really like to improve and it is detrimental, because there's a lot of things that we want to work on that don't really negatively impact our lives. But if there's something that is going on with you that is detrimental to your life, you've got to find some way to work on it, whether that is alone, whether that is with a therapist, if it's psychological, mental health, stress, anything like related to that, whether it is with your partner or with your family or with a financial advisor, with a spiritual advisor, you have got to work on it. I don't usually like to make definitive statements, but it has to happen. And there is a pull between wanting to go out. That Leo energy is just wanting to like lift us out of these doldrums of this Cancer Capricorn stuff. But as soon as we get out of Leo season, we're getting right back down into it with Virgo, and it carries out through the rest of the year. So like, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but it kind of doesn't matter. Like, I know this fun inner light energy of Leo is intoxicating. That is the point of Leos. They are meant to help us. They are the sun to help us, to give us life, to give us light. Figure out a plan and stick to it and have fun while you're doing it. Work fun into the plan. And I think that is a revolutionary way of looking at things, as opposed to the old Saturnian ways of sacrifice. You owe money, live off the bare minimum, don't do anything fun, don't go out to eat, don't do anything till you pay all of that off. I think that is, if it works for you, I think that is great. But I do think that is kind of a old school way of looking at things. I think working in fun, so maybe it's something that's free. Maybe it's something where you take a day off of work and you still get paid because you have paid time off. Working in fun that way. Maybe it's allowing yourself to sleep in if you're on a really strict schedule, like a really strict workout schedule or something like that. You can work in fun and bits of freedom that don't necessarily have to mean that you're compromising what your goal is or what you're trying to achieve. You can make it happen. It's just a matter of the creativity and the thinking beyond the scope of what you see. And that is that Piscean magic and skill and talent that we have got to start to utilize in order to be able to traverse this Capricorn Cancer thing that's going on. So good luck. I say that with love and positivity, because I think it is going to get to be a rougher time come October, definitely November. December is going to be really interesting with that Gemini full moon. I think it's full moon. I mean, it's going to really be something. So take care of yourselves. You're going to be fine, because we know what's coming. So we're aware and we're prepared. All right, so that's going to be all. I'm going to go to bed so I can get up in the morning and go work out. I took yesterday off. I went to the gym today because I too am working in fun, flexibility, creativity, and seeing the bigger picture to meet my goals. So I encourage you to do the same. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to each other. Bye-bye.